you are being influenced in ways you do not understand. Every interaction, every decision, every conversation is shaped by hidden motives and psychological forces. The question is not whether these forces exist, but whether you are aware of them. Machiavelli's secret to reading anyone's hidden motives provides a framework for recognizing and understanding these influences with precision and clarity. By the end of this philosophical journey, you will have the ability to identify and analyze the hidden motives driving others' actions, and more importantly, you will understand how these same forces shape your own behavior. You will learn how to recognize subtle manipulations, understand power dynamics, and use this knowledge to make informed, intentional decisions. Most people are unaware of the psychological tactics being used against them. They do not recognize the ways in which individuals manipulate or influence their behavior. These tactics are often subtle, employed through carefully crafted words, gestures, and decisions designed to exploit unconscious biases, insecurities, and desires. The absence of awareness allows manipulation to flourish. The ability to see these forces, however, gives one a decisive advantage. Machiavelli, a master of strategic thinking, understood that human behavior is not merely a product of overt actions. The true motivations are often hidden beneath the surface. People are driven by desires and fears they do not articulate, but that significantly impact their actions. These motivations are not always evident, but with the right insights, they can be uncovered. Understanding the deeper psychological mechanisms at play allows you to see beyond the surface, revealing the true forces behind human interactions. In the corporate environment, individuals often present themselves as cooperative, helpful, or friendly. However, beneath this facade, personal ambitions, fears of failure, and the desire for power or recognition often dictate their actions. The manipulation of others may not be overt, but it is deeply embedded in the way individuals interact, influence decisions, and control outcomes. The same holds true in personal relationships. One individual may appear supportive, yet their actions are motivated by a desire for control or validation. These motives are often masked by outward expressions of affection or concern, but a careful observer will recognize the true intentions behind these behaviors. Understanding these psychological dynamics allows one to make more accurate assessments of situations, leading to better decision-making. Machiavelli's insight into human nature goes beyond traditional concepts of power and control. He recognized that individuals are not just driven by external incentives, they are deeply influenced by their internal psychological frameworks. These unconscious frameworks shape the way individuals interpret and respond to the world around them. By identifying and understanding these forces, you can predict behavior and influence outcomes with greater accuracy. This ability to recognize hidden motives is not limited to understanding others. It is equally important to understand your own psychological biases, desires, and fears. Self-awareness is critical in ensuring that your decisions are based on reason and objective evaluation, not unconscious drives or external manipulation. Recognizing these hidden motives within yourself allows you to make more rational, deliberate choices, rather than reacting to unconscious impulses. The process of uncovering hidden motives requires a systematic approach. It begins with recognizing that manipulation is not always a conscious act. Individuals may not even be aware of their own motivations. However, by analyzing behavior, speech patterns, and decision-making processes, it is possible to identify the deeper psychological forces at work. Once these forces are recognized, they can be leveraged to your advantage, allowing you to navigate complex social, professional, and personal environments with strategic precision. To truly understand the hidden motives at play, one must recognize that human behavior is not random. It is governed by predictable psychological patterns. These patterns can be mapped and understood, providing insight into the motivations that drive individuals and groups. With this understanding, you gain the ability to predict behavior, influence outcomes, and make informed decisions. If you're ready to uncover the hidden forces shaping your world, now is the time to act. Subscribe now and continue your journey towards strategic insight and self-mastery. Understanding hidden motives requires a deeper examination of the psychological and philosophical frameworks that govern human behavior. The problem is not simply that manipulation exists, it is that these forces are often invisible to those who are affected by them. The absence of awareness allows individuals to be influenced without realizing it. To effectively navigate this dynamic, it is essential to understand the root causes of these behaviors. At the core of human behavior lies the unconscious mind. This aspect of the mind houses the psychological mechanisms, biases, and unresolved fears that influence actions without conscious awareness. Carl Jung, the influential Swiss psychiatrist, identified this as the shadow. The shadow consists of repressed emotions, desires, and fears, elements that individuals often refuse to acknowledge because they contradict their self-image or societal expectations. These hidden aspects of the psyche do not remain dormant. They shape behavior, frequently in subtle ways, influencing decisions and interactions with others. Most individuals are unaware of the shadow's influence. As a result, they often act in ways that contradict their conscious intentions. This internal conflict leads to distorted behavior, influencing how they interact with the world and respond to external stimuli. When these forces are not understood or acknowledged, individuals are left vulnerable to manipulation, both from others and from their own unconscious impulses. The shadow is not inherently negative. It encompasses all aspects of the psyche that are suppressed, including both positive and negative traits. When these aspects are ignored, they exert unconscious control. In relationships, this manifests as passive-aggressive behavior, repressed desires, or the pursuit of validation. In professional settings, it can lead to self-sabotage, insecurity, or the exploitation of others for personal gain. The inability to recognize these motives leads to confusion and, often, undesirable outcomes. Machiavelli recognized that human nature is not governed by rational thought alone. It is shaped by these unconscious forces. His insights into power dynamics and manipulation were not solely based on overt control. They were rooted in an understanding of the psychological mechanisms that drive individuals to act. These insights go beyond surface-level behavior and allow for a more profound understanding of how to influence others and achieve one's objectives. To fully grasp the mechanisms of manipulation, one must first understand that it is not always a conscious effort. Most individuals are unaware of their own motives and manipulate others due to unconscious fears or desires. The desire for control, power, or validation operates behind the scenes, guiding behavior in ways that are not immediately apparent. Recognizing these unconscious motives is the first step in understanding manipulation, not only in others, but in oneself. Psychological biases and defense mechanisms also play a significant role in the way individuals interpret and respond to situations. These biases shape perceptions of reality, distorting judgments and influencing decisions. For example, the confirmation bias leads individuals to seek out information that supports their existing beliefs, while disregarding contradictory evidence. This reinforces the self-deception that drives much of human behavior. In professional environments, these biases often manifest as groupthink, where individuals conform to the opinions or actions of the majority, even when those actions are counterproductive. Similarly, in personal relationships, self-deception leads to unhealthy patterns, where individuals ignore signs of manipulation or dysfunction in order to maintain a sense of control or safety. Recognizing these biases and defense mechanisms requires a commitment to self-awareness. The process of examining one's own behavior, questioning the motivations behind decisions, and confronting repressed emotions is not easy. It demands vulnerability and honesty, but it is the only way to break free from the cycle of unconscious influence. The moment an individual is able to recognize these hidden forces, they gain the ability to navigate their environment with intention and clarity, rather than reacting out of fear or insecurity. Machiavelli's strategic insights into power dynamics and influence are not simply tactics for gaining control over others. They are tools for understanding and mastering the forces that shape human behavior. By understanding the psychological underpinnings of power and manipulation, one can anticipate the moves of others and influence outcomes with greater precision. Understanding one's own unconscious motivations is crucial to breaking free from manipulation. The key to avoiding being manipulated by others is to first eliminate the potential for self-manipulation. Recognizing the shadow and addressing one's unconscious biases allows for a more conscious approach to decision-making, where choices are made based on rational thought, not unconscious impulses. The final step is not merely recognizing the hidden forces at play, it is learning to control them. This requires developing a keen understanding of human behavior and using that knowledge strategically. By doing so, one can navigate the complex web of power dynamics, deception, and influence with clarity and purpose. The result is the ability to act with intention, shaping outcomes rather than reacting to them. The consequences of ignoring the hidden forces shaping human behavior are substantial. When individuals fail to recognize the psychological dynamics at play, they place themselves at the mercy of manipulation, whether from external sources or from within themselves. These invisible forces, often operating below the level of conscious awareness, dictate choices, influence outcomes, and ultimately define one's experience of reality. The impact is far-reaching and, in many cases, deeply destructive. To truly understand these consequences, one must recognize that the unconscious mind does not simply guide decisions. It distorts them. When unacknowledged motives and biases dictate behavior, individuals are not making objective choices, they are reacting to internal forces that they do not fully comprehend. This creates a disconnect between intent and action, resulting in decisions that are neither rational nor aligned with one's true objectives. Machiavelli, in his analysis of power, understood that individuals are often slaves to their own desires and fears. These unconscious drivers are far more powerful than any overt strategy. Manipulation and influence are not just external tactics, they are inherent to human psychology. By recognizing this fact, one gains the ability to break free from the cycle of reactive behavior and regain control over decisions. This is where true power lies, not in manipulating others, but in understanding the forces that control your own behavior. The consequences of failing to understand these forces extend beyond personal decision-making. In social, professional, and political environments, the lack of awareness of hidden motives creates vulnerability. Power dynamics unfold in ways that are not immediately visible. When individuals do not understand the deeper psychological forces at play, they become easy targets for manipulation. They may find themselves influenced by persuasive figures who exploit cognitive biases, appeal to their insecurities, or present false narratives. These individuals do not operate in the open. They operate in the shadows, using subtle psychological tactics to achieve their goals. Consider the corporate world, where power struggles often unfold beneath the surface. Leaders who fail to recognize the hidden agendas of their subordinates may find themselves blindsided by office politics, deception, or betrayal. These individuals, driven by unconscious fears of failure or inadequacy, manipulate situations to maintain control or achieve personal gain. When a leader fails to understand these dynamics, they become vulnerable to strategic moves they do not see coming, ultimately undermining their authority. The same principles apply in personal relationships. People are often unaware of the psychological forces influencing their interactions. Subtle forms of manipulation, such as guilt-tripping, emotional appeals, or passive-aggressive behavior, can significantly alter the course of relationships. The failure to recognize these dynamics leads to conflict, confusion, and, ultimately, disconnection. This is why Machiavelli's teachings on human nature are so critical. They offer the insight needed to navigate the complexities of human interaction and avoid being manipulated, whether consciously or unconsciously. The root cause of these consequences is simple: the failure to see what is hidden. When the shadow remains unacknowledged, it has the power to dictate behavior in ways that undermine both personal and professional outcomes. As long as these forces operate in the background, individuals remain unaware of the true motivations behind their decisions. They are simply reacting to stimuli rather than making proactive, informed choices. In contrast, those who are able to recognize these hidden forces gain a decisive advantage. When individuals understand the psychological biases that influence behavior, they can predict the actions of others with greater accuracy. They can anticipate the moves in any social or professional environment and make decisions that align with their true objectives. This foresight is not the result of mere luck. It is the product of understanding the dynamics of human behavior and strategically applying that knowledge. The ability to understand and recognize the unseen consequences of hidden motives is not just about defense, it is about offense. When you understand the power dynamics at play, you can shape the course of events in your favor. Whether in negotiations, personal relationships, or professional settings, the awareness of these forces allows you to act with greater authority and precision. You stop being reactive and begin acting with purpose and control. The psychology of deception and manipulation can no longer shape your decisions once you see through them. When you understand the motivations driving others, you regain the ability to respond consciously rather than falling prey to unconscious forces. This is where Machiavelli's strategic thinking proves indispensable. By understanding the hidden dynamics of human behavior, you are no longer vulnerable to being swept away by external influences. In the end, the greatest consequence of not understanding these forces is the loss of autonomy. Without recognizing the hidden motives at play, you lose the ability to make decisions based on reason and objective analysis. You become a passive participant in a game that is being controlled by forces beyond your control. However, once you understand these dynamics, you reclaim your power. You regain the ability to make decisions based on your true objectives, not on unconscious biases or external manipulation. You can finally act with clarity and purpose, free from the invisible chains that once held you back. Breaking free from the unseen forces that shape your behavior requires more than awareness. It demands a deliberate, strategic approach to understanding the psychological dynamics that govern both your actions and the actions of those around you. As Machiavelli observed, power is not simply gained through brute force. It is achieved through understanding and controlling the psychological forces that influence others. To reclaim control over your life, you must first recognize the power dynamics at play and then master them. The first step in breaking free is acknowledging that you have been influenced by unconscious forces. Most people operate under the illusion of free will, believing their actions are solely the result of rational thought. In reality, much of human behavior is influenced by hidden psychological factors, fears, insecurities, desires, and unconscious biases. Without recognizing these forces, individuals remain vulnerable to manipulation, both from external sources and from within themselves. Machiavelli's brilliance lay in his ability to see that power does not reside in the physical realm alone. It is not just about the ability to control others through overt means. It is about understanding the internal psychological motivations that drive behavior. To truly break free from manipulation, you must understand these motivations, not only in others but also within yourself. To gain control, you must confront the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche where repressed desires, fears, and impulses reside. This shadow drives much of human behavior but remains hidden from conscious awareness. It operates through self-deception, influencing actions without the individual realizing its impact. By bringing these hidden elements into conscious awareness, you can eliminate the unconscious forces that drive you. This is the first step toward gaining autonomy over your own actions. Machiavelli understood that human nature is complex and often contradictory. People are not simply driven by conscious desires. They are influenced by deep-seated fears and unconscious desires that they are reluctant to face. These desires can lead to destructive patterns of behavior, including self-sabotage and the exploitation of others. Recognizing and confronting these hidden motives is essential to breaking free from the cycle of manipulation. To do this, one must engage in self-examination, questioning the motives behind every action and decision. Are you acting out of a desire for control? Are you motivated by fear, insecurity, or the need for validation? These are questions that must be asked honestly, as the answers reveal the underlying forces that drive behavior. Once these forces are identified, they can be controlled and redirected, allowing for more rational and intentional decision-making. This process of self-examination is not easy. It requires confronting uncomfortable truths and acknowledging parts of the self that may have been suppressed. It is essential for reclaiming personal power. By acknowledging the shadow and the unconscious biases that influence behavior, you can begin to make decisions based on reason and objective analysis, rather than reactive impulses. In addition to self-awareness, the second key to breaking free is mastering the art of strategic thinking. Once you understand the psychological forces at play, you can begin to use that knowledge to influence others in ethical, intentional ways. Machiavelli's teachings are not about manipulation for manipulation's sake. They are about understanding how power operates and using that understanding to achieve one's goals without exploiting others. Strategic thinking involves recognizing the hidden motives in others and predicting their behavior. People often act according to their own unconscious desires, which can be understood through the analysis of their actions, words, and body language. By learning to read these subtle clues, you can anticipate how others will respond in different situations and use that knowledge to guide your own decisions. This is the essence of strategic influence, the ability to predict and shape outcomes with precision. Furthermore, it is essential to recognize that power is not a zero-sum game. The most effective way to gain power is not by dominating others, but by creating mutually beneficial relationships. By understanding the hidden motives of those around you, you can create alliances, build trust, and leverage collective strengths to achieve shared objectives. Machiavelli understood that alliances are built on a shared understanding of mutual interests, and he emphasized the importance of cultivating trust and loyalty to achieve long-term success. The third and final key to breaking free from manipulation is embracing the concept of personal autonomy. This involves not only understanding the hidden motives that influence your behavior, but also taking full responsibility for your actions and decisions. Autonomy is the ability to make choices free from the influence of unconscious forces or external pressures. It is the ability to act based on reason and self-awareness, rather than reacting automatically to stimuli or circumstances. Autonomy requires mental discipline. It requires you to question your impulses and make decisions from a place of conscious awareness. This is the essence of strategic thinking, the ability to act with intention and purpose, rather than allowing your decisions to be driven by unconscious fears or desires. It is through this process of self-mastery that you reclaim control over your life. By understanding the psychological forces at play, both within yourself and in the world around you, you gain the power to navigate life with greater clarity and purpose. You no longer act as a pawn in the game of life, you become the player. This is the true meaning of freedom, the ability to make conscious, intentional decisions that align with your goals and values. The final truth, the most powerful realization, lies in understanding the game at its core. Machiavelli's insights into human behavior, power dynamics, and manipulation were never about winning at any cost. They were about recognizing the unseen forces shaping actions, not only in others but also within oneself. True power does not lie in controlling others through deceit or force. It resides in understanding these psychological dynamics and using that knowledge to act with clarity and strategic purpose. Once you recognize the psychological patterns that influence behavior, both your own and others, you achieve a level of insight that few ever reach. You are no longer at the mercy of unconscious drives, external manipulations, or social pressures. You understand the forces at play and can navigate them with precision. This is the essence of Machiavelli's teaching, the ability to see through the illusions, to understand the game, and to act accordingly. This understanding shifts the nature of power. Power is not simply about dominating others or accumulating resources. It is about recognizing the underlying psychological mechanisms that govern decision-making, perception, and action. When you understand these forces, you gain the ability to influence situations, not by overpowering others, but by understanding what drives them and aligning your actions with that knowledge. It is this knowledge that empowers you to make conscious choices. When you can identify the hidden motives influencing others, you can make decisions that are both informed and strategic. You can anticipate how others will behave, understand their true desires, and influence the outcomes of your interactions. The key is to see through the surface-level actions and recognize the deeper, often unconscious forces guiding them. The ultimate realization is that the game of power is not won by force, nor is it won by exploiting others. It is won by understanding and navigating the psychological dynamics at play. Machiavelli's insight wasn't in creating manipulative tactics, it was in understanding the fundamental nature of human psychology and using that insight to achieve his objectives. When you understand the motivations driving your own behavior, you break free from self-deception. You no longer act out of unconscious fear, insecurity, or desire for validation. You make decisions based on a clear understanding of your goals, values, and true motivations. This self-awareness removes the veil of illusion and allows you to act with purpose. However, understanding these dynamics is not enough. It is not just about recognizing hidden motives. It is about mastering the ability to use that knowledge in your favor. The most powerful individuals in history, those who have shaped nations, organizations, and cultures, understood the psychology of human behavior on a significant level. They knew how to read the hidden forces at play and how to align their actions with those forces, rather than reacting to them passively. This mastery of human behavior is what gives you control, not over others, but over your own decisions. It gives you the power to choose how to respond to situations, how to influence others, and how to achieve your goals with strategic precision. The moment you gain this insight, you step out of the cycle of unconscious behavior and enter a realm where every decision is made with awareness and purpose. This is the final step in the journey, embracing the realization that the greatest power you can possess is the ability to act consciously, to make decisions that align with your true desires and objectives. The power to shape outcomes lies not in manipulating others, but in understanding the forces that shape your own behavior and the behavior of those around you. This understanding allows you to create outcomes that align with your values, your vision, and your goals. The ultimate truth is that power is not something that can be taken by force or deceit. It is something that must be understood, navigated, and mastered. When you master the psychological dynamics at play, you gain the ability to influence not only your own life, but also the world around you. This is the final realization that changes everything. The game is not won by overpowering others, but by understanding the forces that govern behavior, both internal and external. Once you understand these forces, you are no longer controlled by them. You become the one who controls the game. In this realization, you reclaim your autonomy. You act with clarity and purpose, shaping the outcomes of your life according to your own design. With this understanding, you are no longer at the mercy of manipulation, power struggles, or unconscious bias. You are the architect of your own fate, empowered to make decisions that reflect your true self. The journey of uncovering hidden motives has only just begun. What truths have you discovered along the way? How has Machiavelli's wisdom reshaped the way you see the world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights, reflections, and questions could be the key to unlocking even deeper understanding.